Welcome back. My name is Chris, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at inbound shipments in NetSuite. So first off, what is an inbound shipment? It is a specific record in NetSuite that enables you to gather multiple purchase orders that are all going to be traveling along the same route. So let's say a shipping carrier or a truck, and you can then combine them into this one record called an inbound shipment. So there's three reasons that you may want to take advantage of an inbound shipment. First off, you have the fact that, you can combine them all together. Obviously, if they're traveling on the same truck, then it allows you to track the in transit, basically, when are you going to be receiving it, all on one record, as opposed to, let's say, 9 different purchase orders. So if there's a 2-day delay, you can just change it on that one inbound shipment. It gets reflected for any purchase orders contained therein. Secondly, you have the ability to take ownership for the purchase orders and the items in them earlier than when you would normally, where a purchase order generally originates from the supplier, it gets transported, and then when you receive it at your physical location, that's when you take ownership. But in certain instances, you may need to and be obligated to take ownership for it earlier. So an inbound shipment gives you that ability where, let's say, as soon as it touches down in a particular port, or maybe the second it leaves the vendor, you are then taking responsibility for it. And there may be a financial impact as a result of that. So that is the second reason. And then the third reason is in relation to landed costs. So landed costs are the expenses and the costs related to getting it from the supplier to you. Instead of having those landed costs, if you think about it, the shipping carrier, you're paying them one time for the container that could have all 9 purchase orders contained within it. So instead of trying to attribute that individually to the purchase orders, you can attribute it all to that inbound shipment. And then, as you're going to see in a second, you can divvy them out to the various purchase orders all contained in that inbound shipment. So it makes the process a little bit simpler. So those are the 3 reasons you might want to take advantage of an inbound shipment. And with that in mind, let's take a look at it actually in NetSuite. All right, so here we are in NetSuite, and to create an inbound shipment, we're going to come up here to transactions. We're going to come down to purchases, because the whole idea is we have purchases coming in, and we can come down here to create inbound shipment. So let's click on that. It takes us to, again, it's its own record. So it brings us to this inbound shipment record. And this is where we can start inputting the information. So first off, we have the external document number. So this would be, let's mock up a scenario here. Let's say we are located in Austin, Texas, in the United States, and we're ordering a lot of electronic parts through various purchase orders from Kaohsiung Computers in Taiwan. So it's going to have to come out of Kaohsiung Computers. It's going to have to get on a shipping container. It's going to have to come all the way over to probably San Francisco, get dropped off, get onto a truck, then get driven all the way over to Austin at our location. So it's got this whole path it needs to take. And from Kaohsiung Computer's standpoint, they may have their own number that they are attributing to not just one purchase order, but multiple purchase orders that are all going out the door at the same time. So we could reflect that in here. So if we need to call Kaohsiung Computers up and say, what's happening with that shipment, they know what we're talking about. We're all speaking the same language. You also have these fields over on the right here. So the bill of lading, for example, if you've got that number, you can put it in here. Also the vessel number. So again, if it's going on a shipping carrier across the ocean, then you could put in its shipping carrier number 492, and that way you have the ability. Oftentimes with these kinds of logistical means, you'll have some sort of an online portal that you can log into and see how is the shipping carrier doing. Is it going to arrive on time? Has it run into a storm and it's going to be delayed? So by having the shipping number, you know what you're looking for. So those are some key fields. You also have these 4 fields here that all have delivery dates. There's really one in particular that's key, which is this expected delivery date. That's the one where you're going to input it, and it's going to be reflected on all the different purchase orders when you think you're expecting it. So if you know you're going to need to fulfill various sales orders, you're going to want to know, when are we going to be getting in this purchase order, and really the inbound shipment as a whole, to fulfill these other orders, or maybe to fulfill various work orders that you have. The actual shipping date and the expected shipping date, those are not critical dates. If they are important to you in the system, you can have those dates obviously filled in when you know these things have shipped out, this full inbound shipment. And then, of course, the actual delivery date will automatically fill in once this thing has been received. So that's the basic information up top. And then down below, it's quite simple. You come in here, you say, you can either add POs individually, or more often than not, you come here to add POs. You can filter it by a particular vendor. Now, it is predominantly the case where you're going to come from one particular vendor. So in this case, let's select Cable Plus Distributors. And from there, now I can look at all the POs I have from Cable Plus Distributors and join those in to one inbound shipment. Technically, you can have them come from multiple vendors, but the circumstances are pretty rare where you've got multiple vendors that are all going to be joining in their various purchase orders onto one truck shipment, etc. So in this particular case, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to add both of these purchase orders. Now, the fundamentals of what I'm about to show you are going to be true if it's 2 purchase orders on an inbound shipment. If it's 500, it really doesn't change anything. You're going to run into the basic scenario. So we've got our 2 purchase orders. That's good to go. We're going to hit OK. It's going to add them in as line items on this inbound shipment. So we're good to go on that. Other than that, we can come up here and take a look at landed costs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I have a full video on YouTube for landed costs. So if you want to understand how that works, you can definitely check out that video. The only thing I want to comment on here is that you're going to be attributing all of those landed costs to this one shipment. And then what you can do is you can come in here and you can specify the allocation method. So if there's 2 purchase orders, well, let's say the landed cost in total is going to be $2,000. Do you want each purchase order to get half of the $2,000, or do you want to distribute it by the quantity of items in each purchase order? Maybe the value of the purchase orders in total, or the weight of the shipment. So if it's going by a plane, for example, the weight often really factors in how much you're going to be paying for it. So if one purchase order is 2 ounces, the other purchase order is 500 pounds, then you probably give the leaning in the direction of weight. So that is how the allocation works. But we're going to leave that for now. We're just sticking to the kind of shipment itself. We've got our items in here. We're going to now come in here and hit save. Great. We've now saved that inbound shipment. So you can see this is shipment number 2. Obviously, I've only created 1 so far in this particular account. And there's a couple things we can do that are interesting at this point. First off, we can mark it in transit. So at whatever point is relevant, we can say, great, this thing has actually started moving. It is in transit at this moment. So we're going to click on that. The record now updates. We can see that down here, the status is now in transit. So technically, it's left Kaohsiung Computers, or in this particular case, it's actually Cable Plus Distributors, I think is our vendor. So good, we've in transit. And now that we've done that, we actually have a new feature, which is what I referenced right at the beginning of the video, where we can take ownership. So we don't have to do this. We could go straight to receive. We could wait till it gets to us in Austin. We receive it. But one of the benefits of doing an inbound shipment is you can take that ownership earlier in the process. So it's got to leave Kaohsiung Computers. It gets on a ship. We could take advantage of it or ownership of it at that point. We could wait until it arrives in San Francisco. Maybe there's another distribution center in Phoenix. We could take ownership of it at any one of those points. And what we're doing is we're not taking the full accounting impact because we're not raising our inventory, but we can have, NetSuite has existing in-transit accounts. So when you take ownership, it will affect those in-transit accounts where you might have like an accrued liability impact that in-transit account. When you finally receive those items from the POs, it will then, almost like a clearing account, it will clear that amount from the in-transit account and it will fully impact your accrued liabilities, whatever accounts you're using. And it will then have the inventory impact at that point, where if you're ordering 5 widgets, then you'll obviously have 5 more widgets at your Austin location upon receipt. So let's do that. Let's take ownership. We'll click on that. It brings us to this page. So we do need to specify what period we're impacting. So let's go way forward. We're currently in December 2025. So I'll put that in. Now we can add other things like the vendor, the Incoterms, the receiving location might be particularly relevant, but you don't have to fill those in. Down from that, we don't have to take ownership for the entire inbound shipment. We could say that we're taking ownership only for one particular PO, or maybe all POs but one, whatever we want. The only caveat is you can't specify how many of the items on that PO or that line item you can take ownership for. So it's kind of the whole hog. You gotta, if there's 10 on that particular PO, you're taking ownership for all 10. And what can be a little bit tricky about this is if you don't do an inbound shipment and you're just receiving the PO, then at that point, you can record when you receive it how much was received. So if you were supposed to receive 10, but you get it and there's only 8 or maybe there's 12, you can make that change at that point. When you're taking ownership here, you're locked in at what you think it's going to be. So we think it's 10. We don't know because obviously it's still in San Francisco or something, but we're going to specify, okay, good. We're staying at this point that we're taking ownership for the full 10. So that can create a little bit of a headache later down the road. When we actually receive it, we open up the crate and we find out that there's only 7 of them, etc. So that is one thing you do need to keep in mind. Obviously, you can make adjustments for that, but it creates that discrepancy from an accounting standpoint. You can specify the receiving location not only at an overview level for the entire inbound shipment, but also for each particular purchase order included in there. In this particular case, I don't want to specify any of that. We're just saying, great, we're receiving this, in this case, both at US West. We're going to hit save on that. So it's going to bring us to this queuing page, letting us know that it's trying to now process the fact that we are receiving ownership. It's going to have accounting impacts occurring in the background. So we hit refresh on that. And as you can see, it's now complete 100%. So at this point, let's actually come back up to our transactions. We're going to go down to our purchases. We're going to look at our list of inbound shipments. Come to that. So we can see here we've got our 2 inbound shipments. Let's open up this second one, which is obviously the one we just created. We'll come up to that record. And as you can see here, we're now ready to receive this thing. We've got a big button here. So let's do it. We're going to hit receive. It really brings us to a very similar page that we just looked at when we had the take ownership. So it's asking us what's the posting period, what's the various information. At this point, we can now specify the quantity to be received. So we can say, all right, it's going to be 8, 10, 1, 3, whatever the amount is. We can put in that information. If we scroll over to the right here, we also have the ability to edit, for example, the rate. But I'm not trying to influence that. We're just saying, great, we are receiving all of it. It was the full quantities. We'll come in here and again, just specify that particular period that we're receiving it in. So we'll say this is in December and we'll hit save on that. So it brings us again to a queuing page. We'll hit refresh on that. And as you can see, the submission is now complete. So that has done a couple things now. We have received this full inbound shipment. It's cleared out the in-transit accounts that were previously hit. It is now finalized, received all of those POs, all of the impact from an inventory standpoint for each of those POs, updated the actual receipt dates. It has all occurred with this receipt of the inbound shipment. So that's a quick look at how inbound shipments work in NetSuite. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and with all of that in mind, I hope to see you in the next video.